What is up, guys? Mitchell Phillips here, bringing you another video. Today we're going to be breaking down the pros and cons of both Forza Horizon 4 and the Crew 2 from everything that we know to date. I've been doing a ton of research, although I have been a little bit quiet the last couple days, and I do apologize for that. I've been doing a ton of research on all the new features in Forza Horizon 4, and I think I have a good basis to give you guys my personal opinion and also try to break down the facts about what is better in an unbiased way. But my personal opinion on what I believe is going to be, my most played game, and by most played I also mean my most enjoyed, and I guess you could say the better game for me, although I do think it really depends on the person. So we're going to start off with Forza Horizon 4. I mean, that's what you all want to hear about. You all already have your opinions on the Crew 2, but we will break down the pros on there. Now, one thing I want to say off the bat is there's more pros on the side of the Crew 2, but in my opinion there's more powerful pros on the side of Horizon 4, and we're going to go over that in just a minute. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and it's good to be calling myself by my real name. Let's get started. So let's start off with Forza Horizon 4. Now, I told you guys it is going to be a little bit of a biased opinion. I have more experience on Horizon games, way more experience, and I have a bias towards them. So take that into consideration when you're listening to this. Although that is the case, I have a ton of pros for the Crew 2, and I'll do my best to be unbiased and tell you why I value one pro over another one. But breaking down Forza Horizon 4, the biggest thing I want to talk about is the whole visual appeal. I think they absolutely blew the Crew 2 out of the water when it comes to the graphics, the visuals, the seasons, all of that. Now, Horizon 3 already was very good visually, amazing visually. In fact, I think most people would agree Horizon 3 looks better than the Crew 2. So Horizon 4 already looking better than Horizon 3, looking a little bit more realistic, the implementation of seasons that actually affect the map. So not just seasons in the visual sense, seasons in the way your car handles. They said that the temperatures outside are going to affect your tire temperatures, and therefore affect your grip all the more. If the road temperature is going to affect your grip, like they went into all those details with the seasons to give you that experience that I very much value, and I think they definitely have a pro in that aspect. Now, breaking down the Crew 2 on the flip end, I remember we were going to check out. Now, what I've noticed is the graphics, to start off, the graphics are good, but they are a little bit subpar when you're looking at your car in an actual race event. Everything looks nice, it's not bad at all, but where things really drop off is when you go out exploring. And in my first beta live stream, actually, we went out exploring, we found a UFO, and this UFO was such bad quality. It looked so bad, and I know you guys are about to get triggered, so hear me out, let me finish. But it looked so bad that I remember thinking that it looked like something that I would have seen in my computer game that I used to play in kindergarten. I'm 21, so this is like 17 years back or so, on a very old basic computer that was in the corner of our classroom. Not a gaming computer, just a basic computer. We had this Jimmy Neutron computer game, and the quality of that UFO was the same quality or very competitive with that 17-year-old computer game. And when that's the case for a game in 2018, there's no other way to define that other than terrible. That's just horrible graphics when you're out exploring, especially when looking at little Easter eggs where they don't put in the time into texturing and stuff like that. But then even in the city, everything looks like original Xbox, maybe the beginning of Xbox 360 games. That's what your scenery is looking like. Now, your car looks fine, your car looks good, it looks acceptable, but what you're looking at, the detail is just so poor. Now, this is where I said, don't get triggered, let me finish. I know that they didn't just say, you know what, let's make a bad looking video game. I know that they would like if their video game could look as good as Horizon 4. I know it's because the map is so big, processing power, we can't have rear view mirrors either, blah blah blah. I get it, they have a reason for it. The thing is, I don't care. I don't care if they say, oh, it looks like crap because this is really good. It still looks like crap. It still does, right? So when it comes to the visual aspect, Horizon 4 blows out of the water, not even a contest. I was disappointed when I saw the Crew 2 in terms of visuals. Next up would be the car selection. We already see off the bat, Horizon 4 has the McLaren Senna as the cover car, a car that has never been in a video game we're going to get to drive in Horizon 4, and I don't think they're going to stop there. We know how Horizon works with these things. They go big on their cars, they're going to have a bigger car selection out the gate, and they're going to have more DLC cars throughout the life of the game. If we break down the Crew 2's DLC cars, I believe we're getting 2 DLC cars every month for 4 months, so we're getting 8 cars. I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure I'm correct. And if I'm wrong, I'm not off by much. 8 DLC cars, and I don't know if by 8 if it was 8 DLC vehicles or 8 DLC cars, because we could see a situation where maybe we only get 2, 3, 4 cars and the rest are spread out into other disciplines like planes and boats, etc. I don't know, let's just say it's 8 cars for the sake of the argument. That is not very much, and they don't have the biggest car selection to begin with. It's gonna sound like I'm hating on the Crew 2, but just remember, I'm going over the positives of Horizon 4 first, and then I want to go over the positives of the Crew 2 because I said in the beginning, there are more pros to the Crew 2, but the pros on Horizon 4 I just value more. So we have covered the experience in terms of visuals, the visual experience, much better in Horizon 4. We already saw like the sunsets and all that in Horizon 3 that will again be implemented in Horizon 4 that just look completely amazing. And then the car selection is much better. I'm actually hoping maybe by some stroke of luck I can get my favorite car right now, which is the Apollo IE in the game, where the Crew 2 I know there is almost zero chance. I don't even consider or cross my fingers on that I'll be getting access to that car. But there's an excitement around not knowing what DLC cars are gonna come. We still don't know the car list, but we do know that there's more cars. So there's just, for people who are like me, who like cars over other vehicles, it's a big pro for sure. Next up, guys, I have to say the physics. What I really love about the physics in Horizon is it does feel a little bit arcadey, but you can tell they do merge simulation with arcade very nicely. We have actual realistic upgrades like exhaust, headers, pistons, all these different things to add a little bit of realism. We have tuning from realistic tuning from the front arrow, the rear arrow, roll bars, all this to add a little bit of a more realistic experience, which me personally, again, are always going to be biased because someone else might not even care about these, but for me personally, that is important, and I really enjoy that merging of realism and arcade together, and I can really appreciate that. The Crew 2 does not have bad physics, but definitely feels a little bit similar to something like Need for Speed, a clear arcade racer. It's very similar to those games you would literally find in the arcade, just with better graphics. That being said, that doesn't mean the physics are bad, but my personal preference, definitely Horizon 4. So I've kind of been throwing a little bit of stuff into an umbrella. I mean, when I talked about the entire visual experience instead of breaking down seasons and breaking down texturing and all these different aspects of it. I think all in all, Horizon 4 destroyed in terms of that. And when it comes to the physics, I also kind of threw under the umbrella the upgrading system and the realism behind that as well, because that does kind of tie in with the physics of the game. So there are little other aspects I'm throwing in here along the way, but as you can see, there's not a huge amount of pros, but I believe the pros are very big ones. So that is, a big impact. That really covers it for Horizon 4. If you guys think I missed anything that you think is better than the Crew 2, let me know down in the comment section below. Guys, I do want this to be a discussion. I answer all of my comments, every single one, so feel free to ask me questions, feel free to give your input whether you agree or disagree. Moving on to the Crew 2, again, a lot of pros here. Starting off with the photo and video editor. Forza Horizon 4 hasn't said anything about improvements to their camera system, so that is kind of yet to see, but the reason them not saying anything leads me to believe that the Crew 2 is going to have a much better one. I mean, the Crew 2 really blew it out of the water. I love being able to change the season, the time of day, and all that stuff within in the camera. I haven't done too much of the rewind and fast forward stuff, but when it comes to, like, let's say you're going over a jump and you want to get your car at the perfect spot in the air, I have used those, and that is so useful, and I'm so appreciative of that system, especially as a creator. So a big positive for sure. Of course, the one you're all thinking about, the map is way bigger. Now, one thing I do want to say to defend Horizon 4, it is the same size map as Horizon 3, but one thing you do have to take into consideration is the expansions last year anyways were in a separate location. They had their own separate maps, both of them being maybe a little bit less than a quarter of the size of the original map. So you almost have another 40-50% increase on that map size with those expansions. Now those are paid, so feel free to include them or not include them in your decision, but those are something you pay for, which brings me in to the next aspect of the Crew 2. I mean, obviously the big map is, I don't even think I have to break it down. Actually, let's break down some of the other stuff that comes with the big map, which I just love. We'll kind of throw some stuff under an umbrella here. The exploration is very like unrestricted, where in Horizon there are certain things you can't access. You see a mountain like the mountain in Australia, many of you might have not even known there's a mountain there because you've just never been able to explore it. But there is a small mountain in the middle of Australia in Horizon 3, and it's completely blocked off. And any of the larger escarpment like mountains or hills, anything that has any substantial size that you would want to climb, you're unable to do. They've blocked it off. Where in the Crew 2, nothing is blocked off, and what is blocked off you can literally just fly over, change into a car, and you're good to go anyways. So a big pro there with that massive map. It's just amazing. I really definitely like that. Another thing that ties in a little bit, but we're going to give this its own pro section, is the off-roading. If you like off-roading, just get the Crew 2. The dirt that piles up on your car, I would say, is still a little bit better than Horizon 4, even though it's very clear they have improved that. Horizon 4, in terms of your car getting dirty, is actually very nice, but the Crew 2, I believe, did it better in my opinion. That is a little bit of preference, but again, the ability to just access anything, to explore every inch of the map, for someone who likes off-roading, is just so powerful and so good. And tying that into the map a little bit, but also kind of giving it its own pro, I think the off-road experience is by far better. And you have monster trucks, so I mean, that blows it right off the roof right there. Moving on, of course, we're going to get into the variable, like all the different types of vehicles that you have the option to drive. Fly, ride, whatever you want to call it, right? I mean, dirt bikes, hovercrafts are coming, planes, monster trucks, exotic cars, just a big variety. One thing I really am loving about the Crew 2 is it really gives people who like GTA, who may be a little bit bored of GTA, might look at this and say, I want to get into this, and that might give them a bigger appreciation for motorsport. It might bring them into our community. People who really like boats, who are a big fanatic on boats, that I know of, have never really had a really good, high quality, high budget boat racing game. And now they have a game that, of course, is not just about boat racing, but they can just focus on the boats. They can get their favorite boat and race it. Maybe they don't have the best selection, but it's probably better than any other video game out there, and that's bringing them in. Maybe they get a little bit more exposed to the cars, maybe they try out some other stuff, and that brings them into our community. So that's one thing I am so thankful for the Crew 2, because I think it really helps grow the community rather than just make content for the community that's already there. So massive pro again. I hope I'm coming off as unbiased as possible here. I do love both games. I've already pre-ordered the Crew 2. I'm going to be pre-ordering both of the highest quality versions of the games. I have the gold edition of the Crew 2, and I will have the ultimate edition of Horizon 4. So I definitely love both of these games, and I definitely don't think either of them are bad or like completely drop the ball or anything like that, but there are negatives and positives to both. And I just kind of want to see what you guys prefer, what you guys think in terms of what might be better or worse, depending on your preference, of course. Moving on, Now this is like a positive and a little bit of a negative, but overall it's mostly positive for me, and that's what I'm gonna say it. The drifting in the Crew 2. Now, off the bat, to be negative, I don't love that you buy a car that is a drift car. I would have much preferred if maybe they had a drift suspension or like a drift setup, a preset to make it easy, right? A preset drift setup that you could turn any car into a drift car, right? Because that would be a little bit closer to real life, a little bit more realistic. And it is a little bit weird how you buy a drift car and the thing just like can't drive straight. The tail is just swinging out everywhere no matter what. But overall, it is actually a positive. The drifting, I had probably the most fun in the Crew 2 beta drifting. I enjoyed it so much, and although it was easy, it was just a lot of fun. And I can see a lot of very cool tandems happening now that like you don't have to be the best to drift really well with someone else. I can see a lot of really cool tandems and videos being made off the drifting in the Crew 2. I think it's just overall going to be better for the community. Now, some of you who are very good at drifting would disagree and say Horizon's better right off the bat because Horizon offers more challenge when you're drifting. And that's why it's always going to be a preference. And I do prefer that in Horizon, you know, I take my Subaru BRZ with a track build on it, and then I go take it into the shop and I lock up the differential. I make it rear-wheel drive again because everything's better in all-wheel drive on Horizon. I make it rear-wheel drive again, add some power. Maybe I soften up the front roll bars to help the grip, whatever, you know. I like building the drift car. That's a really cool experience, something that's very enjoyable. But when it comes to actually drifting, the Crew 2, in my opinion, for my preference, a lot more fun and takes the pro on that aspect. This was kind of just off the top of my head, and I'm trying to think if there's any more. Oh, again, another massive pro is the customization of cars in the Crew 2. I mean, Horizon 4 clearly doesn't seem like they're going to go above and beyond with their customization this year. They've been reluctant to answer questions, and they've kind of been dodging them, basically. If anything, giving anything, saying that it's going to be like Horizon 3, which is definitely inferior to the Crew 2. So customization is always very important. Both have personalization in many aspects. Horizon is making big steps to improve personalization, which I'm very excited about because personalization just gives you a little bit more pride. I think makes you a little bit more engaged. I think it's very, very important, and the Crew 2 seems to, at this aspect, be winning in the personalization, definitely in the car or vehicle customization to this point, so I definitely give them the pro on that as well. I believe that should wrap it up, guys. So overall, let me know in the chat what pros are most important to you. Is customization the most important thing to you? Because if it is, maybe you like the Crew 2 better. Is the visual experience the most important thing to you? If it is, maybe you like Horizon 4 better. I really think it depends on the person in terms of what is better. Both are very different and very great games. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you found it informative, be sure to like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed. I will see you in the next one. Remember, your pain is your strength. Nobody loves their subs like this guy, and I will see you on live stream.